If dementia residents still have an intact past memory, it's a great asset because they can still use their past memory and their intellect to discuss the past and effectively bypass their dysfunctional present memory. So the way in which dementia residents can do this at dementia facilities is take, for example, farmers, who are a typical group in dementia facilities in Christchurch, New Zealand, South Island. Practically half the South Island's there in farming. So if a farmer has taken an interest in his farm and has always enjoyed the history of the farm, what's happened on the farm, with an intact past memory, he can still discuss the crops, the stock, the acreage of the farm, the problems with weather, the homestead, everything about the farm he can recall as he taps into his past memory, even though the present memory is poor, dysfunctional, or very often very weak. Now, at the dementia unit, where I worked, there were two farmers. One farmer in particular was very pleasant and sociable. He couldn't communicate that well, though he did about the farm, because he had past memory intact, and he was good in that way, actually. So he was able to speak to other farmers in the unit, other male farmers or females that had been working on farms and had farms with their family and husbands. He was able to speak to other relatives who, some of whom actually knew him, because he was not just a farmer of livestock, but he also grew potatoes, very good potatoes, and used to sell them at the Riccarton market. So quite a number of the relatives knew him from having bought his potatoes at the local Riccarton market. So in this way, if the person can link into their past and their past work, and say, for example, in this case, the farm, they can connect in with other farmers, they can speak to other relatives about farming, especially because farming is such a big topic, a big livelihood, huge livelihood here in New Zealand. So it means that if you're a farmer and you remember the past, you can tap into a lot of stores of communication, relationships with dementia residents, with staff, if they're Kiwis or New Zealanders in particular, not so much the Southeast Asian staff. They don't know so much about farming, or not in the way that we farm in New Zealand anyway. So it's a great topic for liaison and socialisation, and a way to be able to garner friendliness and create friendly relations and friendships in dementia units. But because this particular man had a good past memory and enjoyed his farm, loved his farm, remembered everything about his farm, he could communicate that with others. And people got to know him, they got to like him, they knew he was the farmer, they knew he grew potatoes. And even though he couldn't remember anything about his present memory, his past memory stood him in good stead, so that they knew his character, his work, his life, his livelihood. And loss of present memory wasn't really such an issue, because everything to do with present memory concerns, such as cooking and cares, etc., is taken care of by staff in dementia facilities. So he was in a good position in that way. Now, another advantage that farmers have, and this man did have, aside from his past memory, was his strong shoulders. All farmers have strong shoulders because they have to move so much stock, doing all the fences, pulling out the tussocks, building sheds. All day they're working their shoulders. So farmers have big, strong shoulders. Now, this is actually a great asset in a dementia unit, and I'll explain to you why that is. In dementia units, the lounge chairs that everyone sits in are big. They're big, they're heavy, they're comfortable, but they're weighty. And it's difficult to move them around. Certainly the average dementia resident, a little old lady, with Alzheimer's in her 80s or 90s could not move the chairs, and many of the men can't, but being a farmer, big strong shoulders, they can. So what happened with the farmers, and this man in particular, was that they realized they could move the chairs, and the women liked that because they often want to move the chairs to sit by their best friend or have a good spot to watch The Crown on TV, or move the chair to the window to look out at the sunshine and the birds. And the farmers were often called on to do this work of moving the chairs around. Not that the staff particularly liked it, but the residents loved it. So they actually made friends with the women in this way because they could move the chairs. And they were called upon often to do this. So they were automatically included in the group, which interestingly enough, they probably wouldn't have been otherwise, because these men weren't actually interested in the workshops or thinking or discussing or, reading really, because they'd been farmers all their life. But now that the women were asking them to pull the chairs in for their friends and so they could have a good spot, they were automatically developing communication with these nice ladies and becoming friends with them. And as a result of this, they were more encouraged to sit at the workshops and be part of the workshops with the women because they'd already developed those social liaisons. So in this way, having a past memory and knowing about the farm, having big shoulders and being able to move the furniture creates friendship and camaraderie and liaison with the workshop, and in that way the farmers actually did very well at the unit in the workshops and with their friendship and communication in the community at the dementia unit. The farmers, the wonderful farmers. So I've written these two books, The Resident's Voice and The Resident's Rise, both from a dementia unit, and they're on Amazon and my website pietavalentine.com. Thank you for your viewings and your looks and your likes, and please subscribe if you're interested in this channel and pass on links to others working with dementia. Thank you.